So while I'm on home confinement, I'm still having to commute backwards and forth to the halfway house. So I decided I'm going to start taking Uber and Lyft. I didn't know it was going to cost me so much. Every single trip that I took in Uber from Cypress, Texas to downtown Houston costing me $60 to $100 just going sometimes. And don't let it be on a game day or they're having a game or something downtown. $100+ just to get me back home. So it was literally very costly for me having to commute to the halfway house. And so I realized quickly why a lot of women who were in the halfway house refused to go home on home confinement. They say, hey, I'm going to complete my sentence here. It'll be a whole lot easier for me. And plus, they said there was a lot more freedom than going home and being on home confinement and not being able to go anywhere unless you were working. So next trip to the halfway house in 3 days, I show up and they have me doing programming now. They say, hey, you don't have a job, you have to come up here once a week and start taking part in these programming. So they're offering these little mediocre classes the same as the BOP camp at Carswell had offered. So I just go in there, sit down for like an hour or whatever, 2 hours maybe sometime, take these classes, leave and go home. And so that alone right there was stressing me out. So I decided that, hey, I'm going to reach out to my case manager and tell her that I want to start looking for a job. It was getting close to my home confinement date and I wanted a little bit more freedom. I wanted to be able to go out with my family and my children and go out to eat and just do things that I hadn't done in such a long time. And so I got all my credentials to them because it's so important that you have your birth certificate and the social security card as well as your identification when you go to the halfway house. And if you don't have that, you need to start working on it immediately. That's the only way they're going to allow you to start getting a pass to go out to look for employment. So there was a lady at the halfway house when I first got there, and she was a doctor. Me and her started communicating and eating lunch in those 2 weeks that I was there. And she was a much older lady, lived in Sugar Land, and had lost her practice. However, she couldn't wait to go back to her residence and leave the halfway house. She ended up leaving maybe like 2-3 days before me. I was so happy to see her leave. We took each other's numbers and we vowed to stay in contact with each other, which we did. And so when I was looking for a job, I remember one day she contacted me and she said, you know what? I'm doing something that I never thought I would do and I actually like it. She said, it's a lot of work or whatever. And, people like me would never do this type of stuff, but it's making me feel like I have some kind of substance now since I can't work at my practice right now until I get my other business back up and going. So I want to know who she's working for. And she say, I guarantee they'll give you a job. I'm working in the West Oaks area at Goodwill. And so I never thought of working at Goodwill before. I remember when in the 80s when my great-grandmother would take us over to Goodwill and buy us things out of there, and we thought the real of it. But growing up, I kind of like just stayed away from those type of places, resale shops and places of that sort. And so I ended up saying, you know what, I'll try to apply because there's actually one right here by me, less than a mile away. And so she was like, yeah, apply over there. I'm going to give you the number. You can call, go online, do the application. And so I called them. I asked them if they were hiring, and they said yes. So when I went back to the halfway house, in my next 72 hours, I asked for a pass because I had them contacted Goodwill, and they told me that, hey, you want to come in for an interview? We're hiring. Just come in with your resume. I had my resume, so I was like, okay. Well, I got dressed up like I was going to a CEO meeting because to me, character is everything. I don't care what establishment you're going to or who you're going to go before. I feel like you should always be dressed to impress when you step inside that room so people can know that, hey, even if I am a felon, hey, I still have some purpose about. I still can look my best. Everybody doesn't have to know that you have that X on your back. And so I go here and the people are so nice to me, interviewed me and basically told me, I like you so much. They started asking me about my offense and, how much time I did in prison. And then the lady that was interviewing me tells me that she was a convicted felon too. So I was like, oh, okay. So apparently Goodwill hired people who were felons as a second chance. And so I was all down for it. So I ended up going home after that interview, and they end up not calling me back for a few days. So I started to reach back out to them before I started making other arrangements to go interview at other places. And they just so happened to tell me, oh, you're hired, so we need you to complete a hire packet. Well, around this time, the worst thing that could happen to me happened to me.